All right, got Modi with me here for some more stuff. I've just been bogarting his time all day here before we get into Tuesday's play-in action in the NBA. I already know you're doing great, bro. So let's just jump right into a couple of these Western Conference play-in games. We've obviously got the Dubs and Kings. We've got the Pellies and Lakers. These would be two awesome NBA playoff series in general. But
True.
right,
True.
like, but let's get into some bets now that we kind of broken down a bunch of these series. Like, where you? Let's kick it off with the Lakers and Pellies, where I know we both have a decent amount for that game. So what's your first look in that one?
Yeah, so my I have 3 in this one. My favorite one is probably LeBron over 8.5 assists. I know I just talked about like how he had 7 in the first 6 minutes and like how I like to fade recent results. At some point, I feel like there probably is just a matchup here.
Mhm.
And what makes me like this play is not the fact that he had 17 assists. He had 24 potential assists. And then the last time these two teams played prior to that, he had 24 potential assists. Or sorry, he had 19. Excuse me, he had 19. Yeah. So he had 19 2 games ago when they played in February. 24 last game. Like, that is something that you can replicate game over game. Like, sometimes guys are going to miss shots, your assist numbers are going to fluctuate, but you're telling me he's getting like 19, 24 potential assists. And then the third game these two teams played, he only had 8 assists. So we would have lost that by the hook. 15 potential assists. Like, that's a pretty good number. And it makes sense because, like, if you just look at courtside, pal, the Pelicans are giving up the third most assists to his playmaking style. NBA.com is weird about like figuring out where players get assists from, which it's one of my like biggest complaints. I can't figure out like how do they get assists. You can look at to players, but unless there's a page that I'm missing, which we can talk offline if that's the case. But my assumption for that is that the Pelicans just don't guard 3-pointers. So like a lot of those shots are just wide open 3-pointers at LeBron. Like, you run a quick pick and roll, they're going to leave Austin Reaves wide open. They're going to leave Hachimura. They're going to leave Prince. I always want to say Tayshaun Prince.
Yeah.
I know that's not who it is.
Yeah.
They're going to leave him wide open. And D'Lo's the only one that they're probably going to cover. But like, if he's off ball, like, they don't guard those guys. They just trust their length on defense. Like, and they trust the fact that if they leave a non-shooter wide open, that he's not going to make enough shots to hurt them, which they won 49 games. So if they want to keep that strategy, by all means.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why I feel as though LeBron has had a lot of assists against the Pelicans. And then real quick, my bet related to that is I put a half unit on Austin Reaves, 3+ made 3-pointers. On Sunday's game, he went 3 of 7, so I'm not fading that either. He's cashed this in 4 of his last 5 games against the Pelicans. 3 of those 4 were this year specifically. And it's the exact logic I already talked about. They're going to leave him wide open. They're not going to guard him. They're going to say, beat us from 3. And he's been in the middle of a hot streak from his jumper, so you just hope that he can continue that. But like, if you're telling me he's going to get 6 wide open 3-pointers, I'll hope that he makes half of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I can fully agree with what you're saying here. My correlated information, if you will, to that is how good the Pellies team is at limiting points to the ball handler in the pick and roll, right? They're like basically the best at guarding the pick and roll in the league, which makes sense because of the fact that they have so much length on defense that, you know, hedging on a screen with a 10-foot wingspan is a little bit different than hedging on a screen without one. But, you know, it does reason to believe too, when you look at the spot up numbers, right? And how many shots and the frequency with which the Pellies team finds themselves playing defense against spot up shooters and giving up in the bottom 10 in terms of allowing points to spot up shooters. So that just completely supports all of the game theory that you threw out there. I was talking on a live stream before the Sunday games, being like, I want to get cute and like take a LeBron under rebounds because he hasn't had rebounds. I was trying to like find all these things. I was like, it's LeBron in a game that they want to win. And if I know he's trying and going all out, then I'll just take over on his PRA before I took anything under, right? And just assume he's going to do it on wherever he wants to. I don't know exactly how he's going to come out with the scoring. That is one thing that I'm like, is he going to go crazy again and just go right to the rack? I think I can rely a lot more on the assist, the way that you're throwing it out there. And so I'm in agreement with that. I'm gonna throw out a bet that is in that game as well that I definitely already threw in the Discord, which is Brandon Ingram over 4.5 assists. And I was a bad Discord server runner person because I gave it out like 20 minutes after I put it in. And in that 20 minutes, Brandon Ingram it came out that he's going to have like no restriction on his minutes. Like Willie Green
so
is like,
it's skyrocketed up.
So it went up. I still got it into the Discord at about minus 111, but it was plus 105 for a little bit for him to get 5 assists. And plus 105 for this man to get 5 assists is clearly just the books originally going, he's not playing, 32 minutes or so. But here's the thing. If he plays 30 minutes, he's good to go, because he's played 30 minutes in 51 games this season. And he's gotten over this number in 44 of those 51 games with 5 or more assists, averaging 6.2 assists in that time frame with 11.3 potential assists. So I've got Brandon Ingram to get have a basically like a 45% assist success percentage when he has a potential assist. Yeah, I'm taking that, because I love the 50 to 55% as like a pretty good like average to bank on. If you're getting decent juice, you're not at like a minus 140 bet, right? Then you're still going to like the potential assist at that number, right? So 11 potential assists to get 5 plus money. Now it's going to be probably down to about minus 115, 120 in the best spots by the time people get this. But this is wonderful. Like, I did get real nerdy with it on some cleaning the glass stuff, and was like, where exactly is he getting his assists? And 65% of his assists are coming either from above the break threes from his teammates, or above the break in general. Some of them are mid-range, but they're all extended mid-range or threes, or it's right next to the basket. And to just be clear, like, I know AD is going to be down there for a lot, but this Lakers defense is actually bottom 10 in terms of allowing points inside of 5 feet over their last 10 games and over their last 15 games, if you take both sample sizes. So I think there's some legitimacy to it. And I'm just going to take a number here with Brandon Ingram that's like just too low, based on the fact that people think he might have played, like, let's say 23 to 28 minutes. That ain't going to be the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, my third play is kind of correlated to that. I took Zion over his points for almost the exact same logic. Over 23.5 is what I got it at plus 106. I think that 23.5 is minus money now, but I would either still take that or just pump it up to 25 to get better pricing, because it's like you just hope you don't get hooked on 24. Yeah. But I feel like this is a price because Brandon Ingram's back. It's like almost like they're, because I didn't look at the Brandon Ingram assist number. It's almost like they're pricing his assist number as though he's not playing a lot of minutes. But then they're pricing Zion points as though he is playing a lot of minutes, and he's taking away the usage. Yeah. And part of that I also feel like is probably because the fact that he only scored 12 points last game. But like I said previously, he scored 26 and 30 the 2 games prior to that. And even if you look at, like, okay, how has Zion done recently in games that Brandon Ingram has played? Last game was gross. He scored 12 points. He had gone over 23.5 points in 5 of the previous 6 games, specifically that he played with Brandon Ingram. Both games against the Lakers where he went over, he scored 26 and 30 points. Brandon Ingram played both of those games. So I think that this number dropped. Like, this is not a matchup play. I think he's going to have a bunch of matchup advantage. This is just strictly a play because I think that they dropped his price too much because of Brandon Ingram being back and because he didn't play well last game. And it's just an overreaction to that.
Yep. Yeah. I love a multitude of things that support your bet. One is everything you just said. Like, you see 13, 12 points, whatever, in the prior game against the same team. And yeah, go ahead and drop that 3 points for me. That's wonderful. I love that. Yeah. I was waiting for it. This game was not one that you could, on Sunday, that you could claim that the Pellies just went completely all out, right? I think a part of them, human nature. Brandon Ingram's not at full strength, that he's in the lineup, kind of messing up the way things have been going for the last 10 games or so, right? Like, that definitely interrupted. It certainly interrupted our ability to bet on CJ and Trey Murphy 4+ made threes like we've been doing for weeks. Like, that nuked that. But now we move forward, and it's going to be more like BI playing the way the minutes and the rotations that we saw beforehand. And so, yeah, I'll take Zion to still do his thing. The other thing is the idea that Joval is not going to get minutes. I mean, I can't get away from this phenomenon that, like, Joval sits because Willie Green wants to get his small ball lineups in there, but he chooses to do that against the Los Angeles Lakers, who just scored 68 points in the paint with that attempt at defense. So I think if you don't have Joval in there, you're just talking about more Zion as like the best rebounder on the floor at that point. I don't know, maybe Larry Nance is out there, but even with Nance out there, you still like Zion to get his with a little bit more of an open lane, right? Because Nance is not playing as close to the basket, not standing right next to the basket like Joval normally is. So I like all that stuff for Zion. I actually didn't even get another bet down in this one. I still need to kind of look at a few things so I can get that out. But I will move us to the Kings game and the Dubs game, if that's good with you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually put money on it. I would lean towards the Warriors covering the spread, as we mentioned. The only play that I actually did put money on was, I mentioned this one as well, De'Aaron Fox over 27.5 points. I got this at minus 111 at FanDuel. I believe it's now minus 115. I would still take it there. Normally these are like certain narratives that I try not to buy into, but Fox might just get it up for the Warriors. Like he's gone over this in all 3 games against them this year with 39, 29, and 29 points. He went over, like I said, only 2 of the 7 games in their playoff series last year, but you have to keep in mind he broke his finger. I think it was after game 4, if I remember correctly, or game 3, one of the two.
It was early. Yeah, it was like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it was early. 2 of the games where he was healthy, he blew up, like scored 30 plus points in both of them. And the Warriors defense is kind of funny because they're not like the Pelicans where they have a bunch of long, lanky defenders, but they don't give up anything specifically in the restricted area.
Yep.
They'll basically funnel shots into like the paint, but not in the restricted area. That's how NBA.com defines it. And that's kind of where De'Aaron Fox, if he's not pulling up from like above the break, he's getting into that not mid-range, into that, like, I don't even know what to call it on the court, but just in the
extended paint.
Extended paint, yeah. NBA.com literally defines it as in the paint, but non-restricted area.
Yeah.
He'll kind of pull up from there with a floater. He's got a good floater game, or like kind of like the push shot. He'll do that. And like I said, the Warriors will funnel shots there. Like over the last 10 games, they're allowing the second most attempts in that area of the court. By far, De'Aaron Fox makes and scores the most points in that area of the floor for the Kings. And that's an area where he dominated in all 3 games this year, like why he was able to score so much. And another area that I mentioned that he also dominated was above the break. He attempted about 8 above the break 3-pointers per game in the 3 games against the Warriors. The Warriors will allow above the break 3-pointers. Like last 10 games, they're allowing the 9th most. So it's not like, they're not the Bulls or whatever in terms of among the worst, but that's bottom 10, that's 9th most. And like Fox will take those shots. He turned himself into a pretty good shooter. And he's kind of shot himself out of that slump. I forget the exact time frame, but there was a stretch where he was shooting 20-25% from 3. He's kind of pulled himself out of that. He's been playing well recently. And there's something about this matchup that just works for Fox. So I feel like normally I like do the opposite of square, but like 3 of the 4 plays I'm on today or for not today, but for those games are pretty square. But I mean, I like the spots, so I'm not going to back off of it.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to talk you off of it either. I mean, if it was square to bet De'Aaron Fox and Steph Curry, then like, yeah, I guess. But like, I mean, that's what you kind of need to bank on, because I would agree. I'm a little bit actually more scared of betting Steph. In fact, based on a lot of the stuff that you said, I do like potentially. Now it's gone way too crazy. Keon Ellis doesn't have any value anymore, but the thing that the way that I sort of just like summarize what you just said about how the Dubs play defense is they funnel shots to who they want to be taking the shot, right? There's a couple of defenses in the league that are like that, where it's like, yeah, you can get some, like the Bucks do that, or at least Budenholzer did it. I don't know if Doc
Bud did, yeah.
Bud did.
The Heat will do that. That's like the biggest thing.
100%. The Heat will do that as well. It's like we're gonna let who we want to shoot. And I don't know if you want Keon Ellis to shoot. I mean, he did have an 8 threes made game recently, where he was pretty wide open in that. But I would consider that. Now everything's juiced way the hell to the over, so like you can't really get much value on Keon Ellis anymore. You can get like minus 200 for 2 made threes. You can get plus 150 for 3 made threes. Like I don't know how much I like either of those numbers. I might check out like Underdog or Prize Picks for that. But I just wanted to throw that out there to support what you were saying. I'll say this: my favorite bet for a player prop in this game up to date, and I gave out a different one as well with Kyle when we were talking with him. So I'll give both of those real quick. One is the game bet here, where it's two bets, and one is either team wins by 1 to 5, or either team wins by 6 to 10. And we were talking a little bit with Kyle about how there's the last 3 games versus these teams have been 1-point games. And that's what that all is predicated on, is like there's a 2.5 essentially margin of victory between these two teams through 4 games. That's what they're averaging, right? Because one of them was an 8-point victory and 3 of them were a 1 point. So I like the ability to either win 0.85 units or 1.1 units as long as nobody wins by 11 or more points. I think it's a really good look. But the player prop that I have here is Domantas Sabonis under rebounds, 12.5. And the best juice that I could find for that when I hit it, hopefully it's still there as people are watching this. I did get minus 111 on FanDuel for that. I think there might have been some bet 365, but it's a little harder for me to get a bet on 365. So either way, it's about minus 110, minus 111. And the thing with Sabonis is like when I look at rebounds, I always want to look at individual matchups. And obviously rebound chances, right? Which is what we constantly talk about with on NBA Advanced Stats. You can look at that player tracking data. In his matchups with the Dubs this season, where Draymond was playing, right, which is 3 of the 4, because he went over in the game that Draymond did not play in terms of getting his rebounds against his team. But when Draymond's in there, suplexing him or whatever other wrestling moves he's going to pull on Domas in this series, he's gone under. He's at nine a game in the 3 regular season games this year. He actually hasn't gotten 13 rebounds against his team since like the first game of last playoffs against them, right? And that those are always going to be a little bit faster. Usually those game ones are a little bit more likely to go over with teams just like coming out and just being like, I'm so excited for the playoffs. Let's put this pace at like 101. And then they're like, oh God, it's game 85. I'm exhausted. And then it slows down a little bit, right? But the other than that, like we're talking about 16 rebound chances a game over that time frame. So 16 to get 13, come on, man. Like I probably wouldn't do that with like, some of the best rebounders in the history of the game. So I think for the Dubs, you kind of talked about how it's a little bit weird that they actually are so good at it's mostly limiting field goals right around the paint, right? Because like you said, they funnel things away from it, but they've also been the second best rebounding team in the league the last 10 games. And they've been, a way better rebounding team than they were last year, even without Kevon Looney in there. And shout out Trace Jackson Davis, the Rook. But like that's one aspect of things. And I think the matchup comes into play here. So it's interesting because De'Aaron Fox is the dude who guards Draymond Green, right? That's a weird little, bit of info anyway that comes out of these matchups between these two teams. But I don't know who you put Sabonis on if there's a lineup out there that's just Draymond at center and no TJD. I mean, Wiggins will cook Sabonis playing out from the perimeter. I mean, every other player maybe you put him on Clay because Clay can't really drive by anybody. But you see what I'm saying? Like
they're going to run him off screens, yeah.
Right, and that's what they're going to do on defense. Is whoever is guarding, is going to probably be the roll man or at least the screener in the pick and roll, and then either pop out and keep Sabonis away from the rim, right? And that's what happens. That's why he doesn't guard Draymond. But I can't see too many situations where he's not guarding dudes who are going to be a little further from the basket because there's no back to the basket stuff happening for this Dubs team. Zero. Like they are in the bottom 5 in terms of points off of post ups. They don't even attempt to post up. They don't have a post up player. Like their centers play high free throw line at the furthest away or pick and roll stuff, right? So it's just not. It's not ideal for someone who's trying to get 13 rebounds, who's a little bit further away from the basket, right?
I love that play. Yeah, I mean, like part of my for rebounds is the Warriors take a lot of jump shots, and those don't lend to rebounds to centers because it's just the ball just creams farther off the rim. Like if you want to look at teams that allow the most rebounds to centers, it's all teams that attempt the highest frequency of shots at the rim because if the ball misses it, it's right there for the center. So it's like if you look at teams where the guards have the best rebounding matchup, the Suns, the Celtics, teams that take a bunch of jump shots. The Warriors are there too. So no, I had not considered that. I love that look. So right now it actually got bumped. I looked it up as you were talking and I locked it in. It's best offered at minus 125 for 13.5 at DraftKings. So it got bumped up to 13. I'm guessing like people that are square are just seeing his rebounding average and are saying that's too low. And I'm guessing that's what's moving the number. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely love that play. I hadn't considered that's a good one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm always like, whenever I see 13, 14 rebounds, I'm like, all right, well, let's dive into this. What's going on here? Like, I understand that there's some dudes in the league this year, like even a Rudy or whatever, where it's like, okay, yeah, 13 and 14 and a half has been their line consistently. But like, let's look at the matchup here and not just blindly assume that a dude who's dominated the boards is going to be in position to do that again, like you said. So yeah, I locked it in at the minus one. What did I get it at here? I just want to make sure I'm not lying. I did get minus 110 on MGM. That was early this morning.
At minus 110, or sorry, at 12 and a half.
Yeah, 12 and a half minus 110. I would still hit minus 120, 125 on the 13 and a half. Yeah.
So right now, if you want to take the 12 and a half, it's plus 105 on DraftKings best offered price. So if you want to be safer, get the minus 125. You want to get the better odds, kind of like whatever you want to do. But yeah, no, that's a good spot. I love that one.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I got to jump in the Discord and apologize to everyone that they can now get a better number, and hopefully they didn't.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
It is what it is. Either way, bro, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your time with us, man, and some of these picks. It's been really helpful. So let everyone know real quick. I'm going to put it in the description, but what do you have going on as we move into playoffs and even baseball?
Yeah, so I got my own YouTube channel, Jedi Modi Sports Network. Mostly just doing player props. That's kind of my bread and butter this year. I'll dive a little bit more into main lines once the playoffs start because it's a lot easier for me to kind of get a handle on mainline stuff. For baseball, we started off the year doing home runs, kind of had a little bit of a slow start there, but it's April. It's the coldest month of the year. So I'm starting to dive into a little bit more props. But yeah, I mean, daily stuff, NBA, MLB,
Yeah.
That's what you can expect.
Yeah, awesome follow. I'm gonna be starting my MLB show too as well. Would love to get into some MLB stuff with you, dude. Because yeah, I love the Dong report, and I can understand the need to like also kind of pivot until it's a little bit warmer in like the end of May and June, right? And then
carry, yeah,
and
exactly.
then the ball carries, yeah, and that's what I've been saying. Like I've actually been betting pitchers a little bit more, just because of the fact that I do think it's advantage pitcher even when their grip might not be as solid as it could be. But let's not get too far into baseball. I appreciate it either way, bro. We'll talk again soon. Happy betting to everybody out there. Definitely make sure to gamble safely. And until we see you next, happy betting.